I've always said Ironman racing, particularly in Kona, is as much a mental test as it is a physical one. And you draw on those experiences, and a lot of the training you do, often on your own, and those hard sessions, you know, they go in the memory bank to be drawn on at a later date. So, and to be honest, I love being out there on my own, just doing it, you know. I like that mentality, and you've still got to do the work. Everyone goes through that sort of sacrifice and those sort of training days. I think that's the unique thing about our sport. You know, whether you're trying to win world titles or just win your age group or even just finish. The people who win don't just have the talent, they work the hardest.
It's 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning in Boulder, Colorado. The most important triathlon in the sport, the Ironman World Championship, is a mere 8 weeks away. This morning, Craig Alexander, the two-time Ironman World Champion, has assembled a group to ride a hilly and hard 112 miles with a 25-mile climb up to Estes Park as part of the fun. We get to see the top pros at the races, but it's not often that we get to pull the curtains back to see how they prepare for the toughest day in sport. When you head off to the office for your 8-hour workday, Craig Alexander, 2010 Ironman World Champion Marina Carfrae, and Ironman hopefuls Tim O'Donnell and Joe Gambles, among others, are clocking in and heading off for theirs.
All right, so Corey, today, this is a long training day, 8 weeks from Kona. What will you guys be doing?
Well, there's a few of us meeting this morning, heading out, but actually it's Rennie and I doing the session together that we've got planned. We're going to ride about 112 miles, so nothing too crazy in the beginning. We'll head out north through Lyons and up a beautiful canyon called Big Thompson.
Okay.
So some climbing, about 25 miles of climbing. Come back down another canyon, and then some Ironman pace efforts at the end for the last hour and a half of the ride.
So little circuits.
Yeah, it's kind of a little circle we've got out there. It's probably a 10-mile loop.
Okay.
So we'll go around that a few times, and then finish with a quick transition and some mile repeats.
To try to simulate what you're going to be doing on race day.
Pretty much, yeah. A lot of race pace work at the end of a 6 or 7 hour day. So, like you mentioned, it's 8 weeks out, so still time to get some heavy work in, and really just, I guess, tune the body up to more Ironman pace work.
Sure.
It's a session that Rennie and I actually did last year, and I've
Right.
done a couple of times. I start on 6-minute pace with a 7-minute send-off or a 6:30 send-off, depending on how I'm feeling, and
Right.
try and descend it from there. But I think the main thing is you really want to hit the Ironman pace to start with, and if you're feeling good, then you can speed up a little bit towards the end. But the purpose of the session really is just to dial in sort of that Ironman effort, that Ironman pace, and lock that in for a while.
Like, what will you eat during a ride, or a day like this, where it's going to be a 6-hour plus day?
Yeah, pretty much the same as what I'll use on race day.
Okay.
You know, I don't change too much. I've got an electrolyte drink with Carbo Pro in there, so I get all the calories in liquid. I've got some gels as well, which is what I also carry during the race in
day,
Kona.
okay.
And for the run, Rennie's coach Siri's actually meeting us out there with a cooler. We've got some electrolyte drinks, and I've got some flat Coke, which is obviously what you can get on the course during the marathon in Kona. So yeah, I try not to change too much.
In that way, you know, your body's used to whatever's going to be out there on race day.
I think so. Your body just gets used to using whatever you can get as fuel, and you get very efficient doing that. So yeah, try not to change up too much.
Thanks for letting us in.
Yeah, no problem.
A little behind the scenes. Craig Alexander's training. We won't tell anybody.
Okay.
We won't keep it a secret.
Hey, there's no secrets.
He's just doing the work,
That's
isn't
right,
it?
exactly right.
Exactly. All right.
All right, guys.
Thanks.
See you out there.
All right.
As the group headed out of town, there was one more person I needed to connect with. I ran over to give a good morning hug to Marina Carfrae's coach and the former #1 ranked female ITU triathlete in the world, Siri Lindley. The top triathletes congregate in Boulder for a variety of reasons beyond just the benefits of altitude. There are tons of empty roads to ride that are both flat and mountainous, amazing trails to run, great pools to train at, and, more importantly, other great triathletes to train with.
The thing about Boulder is sometimes it's hard because there's established rides and people turn up. So I think you've just got to be disciplined enough to know what your session is and what the goals for your session are and stick to them. And you know, today the goal was to ride about 112 miles, 180k. You got some good work at threshold at race pace, and you know, it's great to have training partners, but like you say, I think you need to be disciplined enough and confident enough to know what the goals of your session are and to hit those goals. Whether it's a race or training, I just love to challenge myself. I thrive on that. I mean, last night I was excited like it was a race almost. I get to test myself again, and for me that's what it's all about. It's a personal challenge to be the best I can be. It's a very simple thing, but it's a commitment I made to myself a long time ago, and I love it. I don't get tired of it. I must say, for me, the motivation, the fire still burns as strong as ever. Like I said to you today, I love the sport now more than I've ever loved it. I don't know what it is. It's just I love being outdoors, and I just love to give it to myself in training. You know, I love that aspect of no one around. It's just me out there, and I can really, you know, get stuck in. What I love about this sport, it's a physical challenge, but it's a mental challenge, and I'm more motivated than ever.
Halfway through the ride, the group stopped to take a break and refuel before starting the long downhill back to town. That's where we had a chance to get some thoughts on the ride from Craig Alexander.
Croy, how far are we into this ride?
We're 60 miles in, and we've got probably another 45 to go. So yeah, the purpose of the ride is obviously we've just climbed 25, 26 miles and just try and keep the power steady.
Right.
Now we drop back down to 5,500 feet. We're at nearly 8,000 up here.
Okay.
And the last hour of the ride, just try and hold Ironman pace. So, you know, push a bit of extra power, high watts, and then the run off the bike.
So did you keep it in big sprocket coming up a lot of that climb?
Yeah, I've been in the big ring. The few switchbacks at the end there where it hits about 12 or 13%, I drop back to the small ring.
Right.
But yeah, I was in the big ring just trying to keep the power pretty steady.
And what was the power at?
It was sitting around 250 watts, so pretty steady, which is good, you know, when you consider you're getting up to 8,000 feet.
Right.
Obviously it's harder to maintain power at that altitude, but you know, you don't want to go at race pace, but this time of the year, 8 weeks out, I think I try to push the rides a little more.
So in terms of simulating the Kona course, because obviously the big part of that course is from Kauai High to Hawi and back to Kauai High. That's where the real damage can be done.
Yeah.
And so is that something you're working on?
Yes and no. I think obviously you train horses for courses, so you train for that course.
Right.
And a lot of the time trial work I do and some of the longer rides are down sort of at Boulder, which is similar to the terrain you get in Kona.
Right.
The great thing about having the mountains is, you know, you can climb for an hour and a half or 2 hours and push steady watts, sustained power output a little bit higher than you would on the flats. And it develops a little bit of power, which is good for the climb up to Hawi. You know, sustaining power, normally that climb from Kauai High up to Hawi is about 18 miles.
Yep.
So, you know.
So this is similar.
It is similar, yeah. And parts of that climb, the gradient was the same as well. Probably a little steeper than what you get in Kona, but yeah, close simulation.
So we're doing downhill for a while.
Yeah, it's about 17 miles, I think, back down to Lions, and then a bit of flat time trialing. So.
And were you and Rennie at that point when you get down?
I think most of the guys, when we get back down to Lions, will head back to Boulder, and Rennie and I will go out. And it was sort of part of the course that we rode on the way out.
Okay.
We won't go all the way out, obviously, to the bottom of the climb, but we've just got a little loop. We go around and we'll get up about 25 miles of Ironman pace work, and then transition into a nice little run in the heat of the day.
You guys are masochists. I don't know about that to do it.
And you got to prepare.
This is a tough way to make a living.
It is, but you know, I mean, look at our office. It could be worse. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, so it is tough. That's part of the challenge. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So.
Exactly. All right, man. Have fun out there.
Thank you.
Craig led the way down the grade. The rest of the cyclists would continue on back to town, but Craig and Mirinda had other plans. They would be finishing up their 112-mile ride with a 25-mile high-intensity section nicknamed The Box. Craig gave Mirinda a 6-minute head start before heading off on the 2-loop course that they would ride at Ironman pace to simulate the last 25 miles of the Queen K Highway. Craig's goal was to go as hard as he could and hopefully ride Mirinda down.
I was very tactical last year, and I mean, Mac had been vocal all year about trying to get the guys to work with him, and they did. And they were very smart in the way they did it. I think as defending champion, I was expected to close all the gaps, and I was able to do that for 60 miles. And I think the gap opened just before Harvey, and those guys were able to work together and really consolidate it. And that's the way it was. Our group didn't want to work, and I didn't expect anyone to work for me. I would have liked someone to work with me. I sat on the front of that group for 30 or 40 miles. It was a learning experience, and I think I've been fortunate. I've had a great run in Kona. I got a good record there, and it's something I'm proud of. I think it's one thing to win, it's another thing to be consistent every time. You're not going to win every time out. There's just too many good people out there.
Monarch Road is a dusty, 1-mile dirt path just north of the Boulder Reservoir. For most triathletes, just finishing this training ride would be more than enough for one day. Not for Craig and Mirinda. Craig caught Mirinda right before the end of the ride. As they pull up, they don't waste any time. They hydrate and transition quickly from bike to run. Craig's goal is to run 8 to 10 1-mile repeats, leaving every 7 minutes. Mirinda will be leaving every 7:30 and is hoping to complete 6 to 8.
Get ready, go.
A lot of people have come along for the ride now, family, sponsors, and I owe it to them as much as I owe it to myself to do the best I can every day. Earlier in the summer, there were days when it was hard to go out and train, but not because I didn't want to, but because our daughter was playing soccer and I wanted to go and watch. So I think as you get older, there's other things in life that become more important than your career. But it gives you a nice balance too, because the training's still important to me. I love my job and I love to get out there every day. And I think, as you progress through your life and get married and have kids and those kind of things, you need supportive people around. And that's, where I owe a great debt to my wife, because I wouldn't still be racing at this age if it wasn't for the support that I get from her and our immediate family. And, they've sacrificed so much, and that's what motivates me as well. And it's not that I need to win to repay that sacrifice. I think they just enjoy seeing me do something that I love to do, but it certainly makes me push a little harder, and it makes me get through the times, like you say, those mornings when you wake up and you feel like you've already been 15 rounds with Tyson. It's easy for me to get out the door because I know I'm not the only one sacrificing. And, it's a team effort, and I carry their hopes and dreams with me as well, so it's very easy to be motivated.
The workout has gone according to plan. Even though he is running at altitude and on a loose surface, Craig Alexander ran the first uphill repeat in 5:36. The first slightly downhill one was 5:24. The temperature is hovering just north of 90 degrees. Alexander's last mile repeat, after a hard 112-mile bike ride, is an astonishing 5:16.
So what do you do now to recover from this?
Yeah, usually I'd go home and have a big protein shake.
Okay.
Try and get some calories back in. Just get plenty of electrolytes back in as well. Might have an ice bath.
I was going to say, ice bath, is that,
Yeah, I'll have an ice bath in about an hour.
Okay.
And I think that helps with the muscles, but it helps bring the core body temperature down too, which helps with recovery. And, because there's no day off tomorrow, you're back into it again. Not to this level, but...
So what is tomorrow?
Tomorrow's a long run, double run day.
Double run day?
Long run in the morning, then swim.
Like a long run, like 15 to 20?
It'll be 18, 19
18
miles,
miles.
yeah.
Right. And you're 38?
38, so not getting any younger.
I know, but do you feel that you're better now than you were at 36 or 37?
You know,
Obviously, you're wiser.
I think you're more experienced. I think your heart and lungs are stronger.
Yeah.
Obviously, the body's not what it used to be.
Right.
That being said, it doesn't have to be. I don't need to train to the same level I used to.
You can do a little less.
A lot less.
A lot less.
Yeah, a lot less volume, and certainly less intensity to get into race fitness. Because I think, you know, every year you do a pre-season and a build-up, and then every year I've done a Kona build-up.
Right.
You're building on previous years. You're not
Sure.
starting from scratch each time. So,
And you're not the type of guy to get out of shape in the off.
well, absolutely. You know, I think it's, yeah, I've just noticed it takes less to get into peak fitness, which is probably a good thing because your body can't sustain the workload that you used to be able to
Right.
manage when you were younger. So I think experience helps, and you know, I think a mental toughness, but also an awareness and a self-confidence that, you know, you don't need to do that volume of work that maybe you had to do 5 or 6 years ago or even 10 years ago. So.
After the workout, we head back to Craig's house to find out how a world-class athlete recovers from a really tough session. Australia is Craig's full-time home, but in the summer, Craig, his wife Neri, and their 2 kids, Lucy and Austin, are based in Boulder, Colorado. The key for any athlete is not just the training you put in, but how your body recovers from that training so you can get out there and push hard again tomorrow. After returning home, Neri puts together a recovery shake for Craig with honey milk and assorted fruit and nuts. And after an 8-hour day chasing a world champion through the mountains, even the crew could use a little recovery. Next up, Neri prepares an ice bath to help him soothe his aching muscles.
This is cold.
How good does that feel?
That's a shriveler.
It'll feel good in about 2 minutes when everything goes numb.
Craig stays submerged in that ice bath for a solid 15 minutes. Later, we had the opportunity to sit down with Craig to discuss the day, his career, and the importance of the upcoming Ironman World Championship.
So, Craig, today you were out there for what, 6-7 hours?
Yeah, it was a long one, and they're not all that long, but you know, I think Ironman's a tough event and there's no escaping. You got to do the volume at some point, and at my age it's not the kind of session I do every day or every week even. It's
Once a year?
Yeah, it's a once or twice a year type thing.
Okay.
So usually I do it once up here at altitude.
Right.
And that's what Rennie and I were laughing about today. Now we've got a 12-month leave pass from that session. So, but it's good. It's good, and it's not the kind of session you do when you're building into fitness either. I think you need to have a little bit of fitness behind you just to get through it.
Right. So you're 8 weeks out from the most important day of the year. And I've talked to Tim and Tony DeBoom about what they feel like before Ironman. And this is 6 months before the race. And Tim says, you know what? I can make myself ill right now thinking about what I'm thinking about the night before Kona. But I know you're a little different because you really come alive.
Well, I love the challenge, and I'm not going to lie, it's nerve-wracking. And I'll say this, last year was a very stressful year. I remember after winning the first one,
Yeah.
defending the first time, it felt like a fun year.
Yeah.
Everything was fun, free and easy.
You're already a champion.
Yeah.
There's nothing to lose.
Absolutely. And then I guess you go and validate yourself in some degree as an athlete by defending something that hadn't been
Very
done.
few people, not since the boom.
Yeah, and a lot of personal satisfaction comes with that. As I said before, it's one thing to win, it's another thing to win when everyone's looking at you and factoring their race strategy around you,
Right.
and you're expected to win. To come through in those circumstances is very rewarding. I will say after that, leading up to last year's race, it seemed to be a stressful year. It didn't seem to be as fun as it had been. It became more like work. And I understand the business side of it and the promotional side of it, but that had always been there. I don't know, I think And that's why I marvel at what Paula did and Dave and Mark, because
Yeah.
the more you win, the more the pressure builds. And the only way that pressure is released is when you get beaten. So this year's been fun again. You know?
I bet it has been.
It's been great, and I'm back to doing it for all the right reasons. And I think it's just my personality. Last year I'd won a couple for myself. I wanted to win for my sponsors and for everybody else. And I think with that comes a lot of pressure. But this year, 8 weeks out, I'm counting down the days. I'm looking forward to going back. It's going to be a challenge for me.
And it's a wide open race.
Well, it is a
What's
wide open
nice
race.
with Chris McCormick not coming back, defending champion not coming back, which sort of sometimes, I remember when Chrissy pulled out last year, it was like chaos.
Yeah.
Nobody knew who to mark.
Taking Chris out of the mix, I think certainly opens things up. It's by my way of thinking, the pressure and the focus will be spread amongst 5 or 6
Everybody.
guys. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Germans are expected to get a win.
Andy's-
Marinos, everybody's had great races this year.
Marino set the world record, then Andy came and broke it. The Germans, there's a lot of pressure building on the Europeans to deliver.
Yeah.
I guess Chris and I have had a mortgage on the race for the last 4 years. It is going to be an interesting race because I think last year it certainly felt like the focus was
Right.
entirely upon me. And
Right.
that's understandable. I'd won the previous 2 times, but I think there's guys now who legitimately, with their performances and not just, hype and speculation, their performances have shown that they're legitimate contenders.
Right.
And I've always felt Ray Lert was, as with Marino as well. So, but I think they'll have a lot more media attention, and they certainly will have the eyes of all the other guys in the race
Yeah.
focused upon them and watching their every move.
That's sort of nice for you.
Well, it is nice. I mean, I think hopefully it'll spread the work a little bit in the group when
Yeah.
someone tries to make a move.
Yeah.
It's not up, and I remember Macca saying that same thing too. As defending champion, by default you're expected to close every move, every
Right.
break, and I mean, who's dangerous and who's not? Last year Timo and Marino went, and then Andy went, and you try and shut those down, and then Faris and Aniko went. Well, they're all either past champions or top 5 place getters, podium
Yeah,
getters.
it's not like anybody who's just a cyclist.
Absolutely, it's not like someone who's 150th on the GC.
Right.
It's a yellow jersey contender.
Exactly.
Taking off.
You got to go after them.
Absolutely, and I think that responsibility usually falls to the defending champion. So this year, it's going to be an interesting race. Without the defending champion, it certainly opens things up a lot, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
You've gone back a long way with Chris McCormick. You guys, in the sport in Australia, and for the last 4 titles, you guys have won all 4 of them between the 2 of you. Did he surprise you last year?
He did. I'm not going to lie, he did. I thought he would be competitive. I wasn't riding him off like a lot of people were.
Right.
He had the race of his life.
No question.
So after a decade of racing in Kona, you think, from any athlete, you think you may have seen everything that someone's got to offer.
Right.
But he had another race up his sleeve, and I think he thrived on the fact that no one thought he would win.
Right.
And it gave him some freedom in the race to do things that otherwise, in the past, the first 5 or 6 years he came in as a favourite, and he had everyone breathing down his neck. He had all the media commitments. Every time he sneezed in the race, everyone would change gears. And I don't think we can ever accuse him of not being a savvy racer.
Always been a good tactical guy.
Yeah, I think the rap on Chris is he can win races you don't think he can win. Tactically or otherwise, he'll get it done. And to be honest, it's disappointing he's not going to be there. For whoever wins the race this year,
Yes,
you want to beat the champion.
of course.
And I think that being said, he has the right to choose whatever path he wants to go down. But I can see from a media standpoint and from a marketing standpoint, I think it's important for any race to have their defending champion there. Notwithstanding the fact you've got to respect what any individual athlete wants to pursue in their career.
Right.
So, but you know what? That leaves a whole lot of opportunity for everybody else. So,
And nobody 38 has ever won this thing.
no, they haven't. So,
And I'm sitting next to a guy who's 38, who's
Yeah.
probably in the best shape of his life.
well, as I said before, I'm not one for figures and numbers, and I don't know the stats on who was the oldest and who was the youngest, but there's an old saying: if you're good enough, you're old enough, or if you're good enough, I guess you're not too old. So, no one wants to be known as the oldest to do anything, but if that's the case, great. If I don't win, I'm not going to use that as an excuse, because I can promise you I'll be in great shape in October and in September for Vegas, and I don't look for excuses. I just want to race and race the best people on the biggest day.
Well, your career has been littered with that, with beating the best people on the biggest stage, from Lifetime Fitness, the first 70.3, to 2 wins in Kona, and we look forward to seeing you in Vegas, and then a month later, in Kona and hopefully 2 more titles.
That would be nice. Hey.
1 out of 2 wouldn't be bad.
Oh, nah, 2 out of 2 would be better, but hey, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. But hey, thanks for having me, Bob. It's always great fun.
Craig, thanks for all your time.
Yeah, thank you.
The 70.3 World Championship fell 4 weeks before Kona. People sometimes forget that Craig's background is at Olympic and 70.3 distance racing. He won the first ever 70.3 World Championship in Clearwater, and he's looking to do it again here in Vegas.
Yeah, it's tough. It's going to be a tough race. It's in a similar mold to something like Muskoka or St. Croix. You know, some courses, I guess, have a hilly run and a flat bike or vice versa. Very few sort of challenge you across the boards. I guess a challenging bike ride and a challenging run, and throw in maybe some wind and some heat and a great field. So it's going to be an interesting race, very competitive race, and I think you're going to need to pay attention to things like your pacing and nutrition very, very carefully.
I haven't contested this distance, a world title at this distance since '07, and you know, I've only contested 3. I've had 2 firsts and a 4th, so I think it's always been my best distance. That's how I feel. I made no secret of that, and I think, you know, when you look back at my career, I think the last 6 or 7 years I've only been beaten at this distance 5 or 6 times. So I've been very consistent. But in the last 4 or 5 years, I just haven't been able to contest the World Championship 70.3 because it's come after Kona. And, you know, coming off a tough Ironman race in October, it's very hard to recover and prepare for a flat, fast 70.3 race against guys like Raylert and Osplay and O'Donnell and Gambles, who are specifically training for a flat, fast course. The timing just never really worked for me the last 5 years, but now it does. So, you know, I won one on the flat, fast course of Clearwater, and now I've won one on the hard, hilly course of Vegas. So it means a lot. Like I say, I've always felt this is my best distance. So to have 2 world titles at this distance and 2 at the Ironman, I think it's sort of nice symmetry. Yeah.
Craig Alexander is a lunch pail, blue collar kind of guy. He understands that to win, you have to put in the time and work harder than everyone else. His efforts paid off big time in Las Vegas. Dave Scott, Mark Allen, and Peter Reed are the only male athletes to win 3 or more Ironman World Championships. One question remains. Has Craig Alexander done enough to become the 4th?